Hey, I'm Sean,
Hi, and I'm Shannon.
and we're the hosts of Wifey and Baby Mama. Welcome back to Thursday Night Family. You know we love you
Yes.
guys and appreciate each and every one of you around the globe that join us each and every Thursday or whatever day you're listening in. I have a coworker, Shannon, that said, I'm really busy on Thursdays at 7:30. But I have Wifey and Baby Mama in my podcast rotation, and I catch you guys like later in the night. And sometimes I doze and I wake up and to the sound of your voices. So y'all know this big mouth can wake anybody up. So I was honored. So now,
hmm
Leah, if you're listening, just know you are my new favorite coworker and audience.
Aw,
Y'all are favorite too. We appreciate all your dedication. And we got enough love to go around at Wifey and Baby Mama. And because we
yes.
love you so much, and we know y'all like guests just as much as we do, we've decided to have Jason back one more time before
All
season 2
right.
ends. So,
Thank
welcome
you,
back, Jason. And
Jason.
just in case you weren't listening and tuned in on last week, Jason, why don't you quickly give the peeps a shout out?
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for having me back, guys. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, Jason. Everybody calls
All
me Jay
right.
Can, and that's it.
Jay Cannon, welcome back.
Thank
Now,
you,
listen,
thank you.
Jason, in no way does you being here tonight exclude your promise of appearing on season 3. So, when we come back, just know today is just a bonus, guys. So he'll still be back. As we've
Wonderful.
never had the same guest, back to back, Shannon. This is like really good,
Right.
right?
Yes, it is.
I feel
And
honored. I feel honored. I feel
oh
very
God,
honored.
Uh,
we're honored, Jason. And
yeah.
so since the night is gonna be good, we're gonna start it, make it better. Tonight's topic is it still on me? So let's get into it. Tonight, we're going to discuss how much is too much for step parents, meaning, do they sometimes feel shafted by taking care of a child, or when the biological parent is living their best life? While the parents that's married to the mom or dad feels pressured, by their spouse to do for the child. But that same pressure is not being applied to the real parent. Have you guys, experienced that? Or do step parents even want to be bothered, with the biological parent being around? If they're not already making an honest effort to be in the child's life, then you have those parents that don't want to be with the biological parents of the child. They have found love on another two-way street, okay? But they want the parent that has left the home to still take care of the home. And notice I said home, not children. It's no
Right.
law that says we can't decide you're not my person, right? But unfortunately, we can't decide that about our kids. But people, if
hmm
you choose to go fall head over heels, for a bum, a loaf, whatever, freeloader, whatever they call them these days, you can't expect that other partner that you left to sponsor yours finances, just because you have children together. So yeah, we're gonna hit this topic from a few different angles tonight, but in no particular order. So y'all just jump in and just jump in. And of course, Jason, though, I will direct the first question to you.
All right.
All right. Are things smooth with the parents in your blend? And by smooth, it doesn't have to be Sean and Shannon smooth. Because again, we've stated numerous times on this show, right, Shannon? We recognize
Yep.
our situation is more uncommon, right? We know. We
Right.
know.
Right.
Every blended family can't be or isn't perfect, right? And we're not perfect by any means. We're
Right.
just
Oh, yeah.
saying
Right.
we get along. And
hmm
we're just fortunate. But and we were grown enough though, so that's what it all starts with. We were grown enough, Shannon, in the beginning to make that
hmm
decision for ourselves. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Jason, how do you and your wife blend with the other biological parents in your situation? Like, what's your blend looking
Um,
like, Jason?
so I would say from her side, once we both made the commitment and I made the commitment to, be there for her and the kids, she's very independent. You know what I mean? So, the prior to us getting together, she was a single mother and I was a single father. And when I say single, I mean by unmarried. Um, from her side, it was basically, okay, I'm going to take this on. And it's been, pretty much smooth sailing since, a few bumps in the road. But, as a man who steps up in a single, in a blended family, I take on all the responsibilities as a father. Um,
Okay.
I don't I don't pressure her, be like, oh, you need to go and do this to him and that. No, that's not what it's about because it causes more confusion and stress than anything.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
on my side with my children, um, my son primarily in the beginning, there was a lot of turmoil. Um, and of course, everybody knows the baby mama drama, that people have, or just
Mm-hmm.
unmarried
Mm-hmm.
parent drama, period. So I can't just necessarily say baby mama, but there was a lot of turmoil. Now, they communicate, we communicate great. They've never had any problems. Um, but all three of us, we even have a group chat. So we communicate excellently when it comes down to our son. You know,
Okay.
Jordan, that was just like that was a gift from God. Her
Oh,
mom was,
Yeah.
absolutely.
was excellent. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I never had to deal with anything from Jordan's mom, other than her telling me, pull up your bootstraps and get moving. You know what I mean? Because she was, I wasn't the best by any means, but she was a great mom. And Sean, like that family is going to take care of anybody and anything.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Especially the children, honey. And I tell
especially,
you, it's
Especially,
if
especially,
yes.
anybody's gonna
you know,
suffer in that family, it won't be the children, honey. They take care
it
of the
will
babies.
not,
That's right.
but I
That's
thank God.
right.
I thank God for, for that family every single day. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
it definitely is hard when more can be done. And you know what it is? The children are the ones who get the bad end of the stick, you know.
Exactly.
And me
Mm-hmm.
growing up in a single family home, I know my mom did the best that she could, but we lacked as children. And the thing about it is, and like we talked about last week, is trying to break those generational curses. So I'm glad that
Yes.
I can be of a curse breaker with the children who are not biologically mine, to show them something of a father figure, and also be there for my children later in life or early in life.
That's awesome. And I like what you said when you said sometimes it creates, call the other person. It's easier to just leave them out. Like in my case, I remember when my daughter was in high school and, for example, I was like, let me call such and such because, her prom dues are due next week. And my husband said, call him for what? I got it. And I was like, okay, Big Daddy, now that's what I'm talking about. But
Right.
that incident didn't make that particular parent good or bad. It's just more likely than not, we know he's not going to do it. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
my husband knows that would send me into a rage. And it would still be all on me. So whether I called him and he said no, or if I didn't call him and just took care of it, the scenario was it's more than likely going to be on you. So why even involve him? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband's the type of man is if it's on you, then it's on us. So,
Right. Right.
and I adore
Yeah.
him for that, And also something we discussed last week was every house should be ran according to whatever rules that husband and wife set as a standard. It doesn't mean my way is good. It doesn't mean, Jason, your way's, better.
Right.
It doesn't mean whatever's right. For years, like you said, Jason, people would tell me, oh, put the biological father, on child support. Go down to the man. And I politely told them, the man or the government was not in the room when I laid down and got pregnant. And they
Right.
won't be deciding if no grown-ass man take care of his kid or not. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
He drew his line in the sand a long time ago, and I drew mine.
Right.
I live by the theory, mama's baby, daddy's mate. If you want to do it,
Right.
fine. If you
Right.
don't, I got it. And when any of my kids' father, and yes, I said any, because y'all know from the book, now I was outside a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
was wilding for a while in my head. But, thank God for grace. But if if any of them weren't there, whether it was voluntary or involuntary reasons that my children's father wasn't in life at whatever point in time, I made it happen. And I'm just
Right.
grateful
Yeah.
that I'm now
Yeah.
able to say we make it happen as a husband and wife. Our motto on wife and baby mama is if you start it wrong, or even if you're doing it wrong right now, you don't have to stay there. Like
Right.
it's
That's
never a wrong
right.
time or too late to get it right in life. And
Right.
I'm more than thankful, that God has, He's blessed my latter days to be what His word said it could be. And, and His plans for us are good, they're always good. So just make up your mind that you're going to walk in that good.
Yeah, but
And
when you bring up, I'm sorry, Jason, I'm
no, go
jump
ahead.
in. But when you bring up, Sean, the wife and the husband, the rules that they set at their house, this is how they're gonna, operate in their home.
Mhm.
I have to bring up, my upbringing and my relationship with my stepmother,
Okay.
and how the rules in the house, you know, all everything went to, of course, her kids and not us.
Mm,
So yeah, um, and my dad being, the man that he was never going to challenge that because he wanted peace in his home, you know?
right.
So in those situations, that's the flip side. I know you said we're going to go at this different angles, but that's the side I think when we're talking to people too, we need to bring that out and say, as the bonus parent, try to remember that you married someone with children.
That's a
And
fact.
and if he wants to take care of his children, applaud him for that instead of saying, "Don't take away from me and my kids," as
Or
if,
don't marry a man with kids if you can't have that
or
kind of
don't
attitude.
marry.
You
Exactly,
know what I'm saying?
exactly.
Because how the
Mhm.
biological and step parents treat the child has an effect. Like
That's
Jason
right.
said, it's gonna, and he's making sure that he's been the man that whether the kid's father choose to be there or not, I'm gonna make sure they
Mhm.
see a good example of what a father should be, whether it's a voluntary or involuntary
Right.
reason the guy's not there, or in your case, whatever reason your father wasn't with your mom, it wasn't because your mom didn't want you, it's that your father married someone else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
you got to be very careful. And that's an excellent point to bring out. And let me tell you, it also affects the relationships that the parents have. Like Jason said,
Oh yeah.
his wife, and his son's mom have a tech group chat. That's good business, and
Mhm.
that's what we're here to
Yeah.
promote. It can be done. Like my exes, for instance, the one father that we don't call because he probably not gonna do it. When my husband sees him, he's cordial. Hey man, how you doing? Good to
Mhm.
see you.
Mhm.
But when he sees my other daughter father, like, they kick it. He pick him up from the
Yeah.
airport, when he comes here
Yeah.
he takes him to his hotel. They hungry, they laugh, they
Mhm.
joke because he's responding to the way that that man takes care of his child. You get what I'm
Mhm.
saying? My my
Yep.
my youngest daughter's father is an excellent father. My ex-husband is an excellent father. So my husband respects that. So he treats him like a man. And if my ex-husband don't got it, my husband don't be like, well, why he didn't do it? Because he knows if he didn't
Mm.
do it, it's because he couldn't. And rarely is it that he can't. But that other one,
Mhm.
he's just out here in the wind, baby, living his best life. My husband don't get involved with the why won't you do this or why won't you how much is it? I'll take care of it. And that affects even how the world portrays these people as parents. Because my husband don't have to go around dogging them out, but your kids can see that here's my stepfather
Mhm.
paying this bill or buying my shoes for prom or getting my hair done, but my father ain't answering his phone. So you don't have to badmouth that other parent.
That's
Life
right.
itself will let these kids know who you are. So parents, remember that you're not hurting that other parent if you're not participating. Step parents, remember, if you're treating those step kids bad, that's a reflection of who you are. Those kids are not responsible for that.
That's absolutely true. And with just to piggyback off that, like I said, I've been both sides. I've been on both sides because I had my oldest daughter young. So and like I always say, we had a relationship, but I was just not ready. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But as I
Mhm.
grew older, I had to mature, and it takes a level of maturity to accept the fact that you have children and you need to take care of your children.
Absolutely.
When my wife and I, when we got together, you know, there was never any discussion about, well, why don't he do this? You know what I
Mm.
mean? Because at that time, I grew up without a father, so I knew what needed to be done. You know what I mean? And I treat them just like I treat but like I told you last week, they if I hate one, I hate them all. If I love one, I love them all. You know what I mean? There's no, there's no differentiating between any of them. Somebody asked me, how many
Mhm.
kids do you got? I have five.
Right.
And
Mhm.
if you have a question about it, it's really none of your business. Just know that they have a father. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean?
And that's how it should be. It's like when I come home and I'm slamming stuff or, I'm washing the dishes real hard, water flying everywhere, Jimmy will ask, hey, what's wrong with you? And I say, yo, kids getting on my dingo nerves. And
Yeah,
he won't say, wait, my two or the other two,
yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
the two in the
right,
middle, the
right.
oldest. I tell him, your kids getting on my nerves. And
But
it's no different because they're all just our kids.
but you know what, Sean,
Mhm.
and I say it with pride. I appreciate when my wife my wife has allowed me to be their father. That's a great honor.
Oh,
You know what
yeah,
I mean?
that's
It
That
is.
is
awesome.
really a great honor,
Mhm.
and I appreciate the fact that she accepts um my two as her own. Her and Jordan have a
Mhm.
great relationship.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and that's great. You know what I mean? Because that's what I want. I grew up without a family, so the family atmosphere for me is great, and I appreciate it. You know what I mean? When she be like, "Oh, the kids, this," I take honor in that, and I'm just like, "Wow, these are my kids." I never look at them as you know
Step
others.
one.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But then
Mhm.
Yeah.
also
Mhm.
I
Hers.
right, but I know the hardship that she went through with their father, so I never when her and I discuss, we may discuss him. We don't do it in front of the kids, and I always make sure I
Right,
talk to
right.
them about their father. Like, hey, have you called your dad? How's
Heck
he
Mhm.
doing? You
yes.
know what I mean?
Yes.
Because
Just a grown man.
right,
Yeah.
because you know what? Even as kids, we don't see. I blame my mother for my father not being around when I was younger, but as I got older, I realized it wasn't her;
That's
it
right.
was him.
It's his
You know what
choice.
I mean? And
Mm.
you have to let kids grow to see who their biological parent really is.
Really, absolutely. And
You
I
know what
and
I
I
mean?
say that I think Shannon, we've said that numerous times on this show.
Mhm.
You don't have to
We
Yeah, of
have.
badmouth
course.
those parents. Those
Yeah,
kids will
no.
get to an age when I remember Shannon, I told you how
Yep.
my oldest daughter,
Yep.
I mean my older daughter, the two that are not my husband's, she said, Mom,
Mhm.
my dad really is not a good dad, Mom. Like, why are you nice to him? I said, because you had to get old
Mm.
enough to know that. It wasn't my
Yeah,
place to tell you that, sweetheart.
Yep.
She said, Mom,
Yep.
you do everything for me. And I said, baby, that's what mama's baby, daddy's maybe.
but you
Any
know what?
real mother,
But what
whether you
I'll
show up or
say
not,
this,
baby, we're gonna take care of it.
right, but I'll say this is that you have to always encourage and foster love with that other parent with the child. You always have
That's
to,
Yeah.
right.
because you know what?
Yeah.
You
You can
never
foster it in, baby, but when they get old enough to see and feel, you can foster all you want to. It speaks for
right,
itself.
right, but
Oh,
in
As
yeah.
parents, we foster it in.
Yeah.
We just show the love.
right,
We just
Right.
right.
encourage them, like
Right.
you said, Jason. Hey, have you called your dad? But
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you
Mhm.
something. The older they get, the wiser they get too. That's just not a saying, it's
right,
true. And
but
Oh,
we
if
have to
you
yeah.
want your kids to love and value you, then we can foster it in if we want to, Jason, but you still have to be a good person.
right, but we always have to remember what the Bible says is, honor your mother and your father. And we can't, because we may feel a certain way, we always have to make sure that we are teaching our children, no matter how old they get,
Mhm.
is that they have to honor, we have to honor our mother and fathers so that our
Right.
days may be long. And no
That's right.
matter what my dad did or did not do for the
Mm.
42 years, because he just passed in March of this year,
Mhm.
no matter
Sorry.
how much he was not there, I took care of him the last 3 years of his life.
That's
And
amazing.
everybody said,
Mhm.
"Well, why are you taking care of him? He never did anything for you. He was never there." And I said, "Because I want my days to be long. I want my kids to understand that you have to love your parents. You know what I mean? And no
Right.
matter how bad I feel, I mean, people, Sean, you wouldn't believe, people would be like, "Why are you doing this? Why?"
Oh, I know.
I wasn't doing it for people.
Mhm.
I was doing it for
Mhm.
myself, and I was doing it because that's what the Bible said that I needed to do.
That we're
And I
supposed to
always
do.
tell yeah, and I always tell my kids, I say, "You know what? No matter what happens, love your father, because you know what? You only get one."
That's it.
And they
Mhm.
go through stuff
Yep.
just like we go through
Yep.
stuff. And I always
And
tell
that's what
them,
I told my daughter. And believe it or not, she's his fourth child. But you know what I told her? She's like, Mom, it's not like I'm his first kid. Just because you had a baby don't make you a father.
right,
That's
He
right.
still has not learned. Maybe no one has never shown him how to be a father. So
right,
that's, she always said, I make excuses. I don't. And my other daughter would say, or other people would be like, you won't put him on child support. Why? Because you still love him. You still want him. I said, no,
mhm,
because he may not even
No.
know what he's doing. And I
right,
can't focus on making him being a man. I need all that strength to make me to be the best mom that I could be.
Mhm.
And that's it.
absolutely.
Mhm.
And that's how I dealt with it. But
Yeah.
I'm going to say this real quick too. I'm sorry, Shandy, you was where you were coming in.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
I was going to say this, Jason, and I was going to pivot right to this video I want to talk about real quick. But Jason, first of all, not only is that honorable, like you said, and like we said, that you teach kids to love their parents no matter how good or bad they may be. Jason, I can guarantee you as a woman what that means to your wife, the way you take care of her kids.
Mhm.
I'm sure she tells you, because I know your wife's a sweetheart, and I'm sure she expresses that. But I don't know if my husband ever knew. I think I may have told him at night, but one day in church, and we were not even remarried at this point. A guy just asked, Jim, how you doing? And Frank was running around, and he's like, oh, Jim, he's a handful. He says, Jim, how many kids you got? He said, I have 5. I have 2 sons, and I have 3 daughters. Like he said it without blinking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we were not even and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Wow." And I'm telling you, it's a few points in my life when I just really saw the man he was, and I'm telling you, every time it take me to a different level of love for him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because you have
Yeah.
your physical love, you have all that. But when you reach those kind of realms, it just takes a woman to a different place to hear him say, "I have 2 sons and I have 3 daughters." He never once
Right.
said, "I have 2, but these are my wife's kids." You know?
Yeah.
I just
Mhm.
I just really love him for that, and
It
I
it
just
creates
think
it
that
creates a s it creates a division in a family that, I would say that even prior to us getting married, because no matter what, even when we separated for a little bit prior to us getting married, and those were still my kids, like, I would go pick them up, me and her were going through our
Mhm.
stuff, but the thing about it, it creates division that's already there. There's an
yep,
obvious line that's there because they're
you're
not
not the real father.
it's
You're not the
right,
Yeah.
biological dad.
Yeah.
right. So
I
why
mean,
Right.
that's
even
just an
Right.
speak it?
undisputable fact, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why speak it? You know what I mean? If you
Right.
really
Mhm.
want a family, there's no FAM-IL. Why? There's a whole family, and I don't like division. That bothers me when
Yeah.
I hear people say, "Oh, those are hers and these are mine," but y'all married? No,
That's right.
Mhm.
no.
Mhm. Yeah. Now, the only thing I can say, um, of course, I have to bring in my upbringing again because I did not experience
The
in
bl
a marriage or relationship blended families because Jay was grown, when I
right.
met my husband, and my
That's
husband's
right.
children are grown. But growing up, I always had an issue with calling my stepfather father or dad. And I think we touched on this on one show before too, mainly because I was daddy's girl, and I
Right.
did not want to give someone else that title or, call him dad or whatever. I was forced to, I had to do it. And it's not that I didn't love him. He was a great stepfather, great stepfather. I give him a lot of credit for, a lot of my success in learning. He was always big on teaching us how to use our mind in critical thinking and strategizing and things like that my father would have never been able to do. Um, so in situations where the the biological father is very, very present and the stepfather wants to be present, how do people handle those types of conflicts? Or if there is conflict, there might not be, but I can see or I can, you know, s- can imagine there might be a little bit of power struggle at times
Right.
um, in that situation. So, what do you think, Jason, on that?
For me, it wasn't it's never been an issue because they call me Jason, and that's
Hmm.
perfectly fine. The one thing that I always told him is I am not here to replace your father. I'm here to stand in his place when you need him the most.
Hmm.
And if that's on a daily basis, if that's on an occasional basis, and like I said, for the last 12 years, it's been on a 12, 13 years, it's been on a daily basis. Um, and I've always told them that I've never forced them. Hey, call me Pop or no, like even me and my
Yeah,
wife,
yeah,
we talked about it. She was like, "Do you wish you had a nickname?" I was like, "Yeah, but the most important part of the whole thing is a relationship." Like they call me Jason,
right.
and my daughter, she'll be like Jace, and she knows I hate that name. But it just, it's always been Jason. But I don't feel anything about a, a I don't want to say a title, but a name.
Hmm.
I feel
Hmm.
more so about the relationship that we have. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
um, I don't think anyone should be forced to call anybody um, father or a name that they don't feel comfortable because I think
Hmm.
that's the parent showing insecurity about them and what they want to hide instead of thinking about how the child feels. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
Um, yeah, to force someone to call somebody a name that they don't like, no, no, that
Mhm.
that creates a whole lot of problems, and they'll
Yeah,
resent
I
that
I
parent.
definitely
agree.
believe in that.
They will
And I
resent that
think
parent.
I think that should be a choice on the children. You know what I
Right.
mean? I mean, you
Mhm.
just said from the beginning you've loved them. They were very young when you met them, and they call you Jason, and that's fine. I mean, that's fine. My
Mhm.
kids, on the other hand, were a little older when I remarried my husband, and they call him Dad because that's that's what they choose to call him, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be, or if they call him Jimmy, I won't be like, don't call him that. And some days, you know, they'll be talking and they'll say, Mom, could you tell Jimmy? I don't be like, nope, that's your father. You know, I don't do that.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
90% of the time they go, can dad pick me up or is dad home or what dad doing? Or if they call and say, Mom, is Jimmy off work yet? It's just, I call it a Freudian slip. But I know that they present to him as dad. I know that they love him as dad, and that's enough for me. You know, I'm not going to force him to do anything.
Right.
But I think Shannon, that was a really good point, though. Really good point. You can't force them, and
Yeah,
I don't
you
think you should.
can't. Right, right.
All right. So real quick, guys, I know we gotta get to the red line and stuff, and I know we're almost out of time, but I just want to ask both of you: did you guys see that video going around on social media? And if not, I'll give you guys a brief recap. You may like, yeah, I saw that once you hear it. Or audience, if you've never saw it,
Mm,
it was a guy. He was very upset. You know, he's ranting, he was raving. He's probably been with the girl, I guess, the girl's mom since she was a little girl. From what I'm hearing, like he bought her first car, paid college, and was now about to pay for her wedding, right? And then she said, I want my real father to walk me down the aisle. And he was going, I
mm.
mean, he was saying some words I'm not going to say. It's a Christian show, family show. But baby, I think it would have been a misunderstanding. Like that was my first
Mm,
thought, right? But then I'm like,
mm,
wait, we don't have all the facts. Maybe her father was too poor to do all those things, right? Maybe he was disabled, or maybe he was just a jerk who was mad at the mother. She didn't want him anymore. But he and the daughter still had a good relationship, and the stepfather just chose to do all these things, Jason, like you say you've done, and like my husband do. It doesn't matter what the other father's doing. He chooses to do if the needs is there. But I
mhm.
think to the very least, whatever the situation was, she could have said, you can both walk me down. How do you guys feel about that? I don't think it was right just to X the stepfather out, no matter what the background was. What do you guys feel about that?
Go ahead, Shannon.
Well,
Jason, like, what you think about
you,
it?
yeah, I'm definitely the I don't know if I say the wrong one to ask because already know I'm daddy's girl. And like I just said, my stepfather did a lot for me. Both my stepfathers, I actually had two. One was later on, of course, I was a lot older, but he was still there for me for everything, both of them. However, there was nobody on the face of the earth better than my dad. So I still would have chosen my dad to walk me down the aisle, even though I didn't get 2 pennies from him, That
But
that
you had
just would
that
have been
love,
my
and that was,
choice.
and Shannon,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
now I think we're gonna have three sides to this because now Jason gonna have his. So Shannon, that was your side. I'm gonna go
Yep,
totally
yep.
opposite and say I would have had both of mine because of the love my stepfather. I was a daddy's girl. I
Mhm,
loved the ground my father walked on. But my
mhm.
stepfather took care of me. He put me to bed at night. He
Yeah,
put band-aids on my boo-boo. He bought my, feminine products. There was no
yeah,
way I could have allowed all that to happen and then it was time for me to get married and say, okay, stepdad, my dad's flying into town to walk. I wouldn't have had the heart. So I would have definitely been the girl with the two arms if I didn't get married inside a federal facility the first time. But go ahead.
yeah.
Okay, Jason,
But it would have hurt my dad, I guess,
it
too.
wouldn't hurt
You
my
have to
father's
look
feeling
at
at
the
all because my
see
father
see, that's the
respected what my
difference.
father did for me.
Yeah,
My father
yeah, so
respected what my stepfather, even though my father was a big financial. And I think that's the
mhm.
difference, Shannon. Maybe your father felt like, I don't have a whole lot of money, but I give you all the love in the world. I
Yeah,
think that's,
yeah.
and you said that in one of our shows. My father was
Mhm.
like, I ain't coming up there to buy you no pads. I'm not about to take you to prom. But how much you need to get there?
Right,
So if
right.
somebody else is gonna walk with you, that's fine by me. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
guess it just
yeah.
depends. So Jason, what's your
Right.
cut on?
So it's different. They're different. I saw the video. Needed a whole lot more background on it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Needed a whole lot more because there, like you said, there's so many different aspects and angles that could have taken place.
Mhm.
If my daughter had have said, "I want my dad to walk me down," would I be hurt? Yes. But as you guys have always said, fathers hold a special place in their daughters' hearts.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, I
Mhm.
think that her mother would probably talk some sense into her. Um, but what I mean, but just from the decision that she would make, I would talk to her, and it wouldn't be a force type thing. I would be hurt, um, but I would understand. You know what I mean?
Right.
Mhm.
I definitely will
Mhm.
understand. I wouldn't be angry, but as a man, I'd probably be like, you know, I've been here, I've been rocking with you since in this. You know what I mean? It's like that one Bill Cosby joke. where he said that we take the kids to football practice, stand in the rain, go through all the games, and they make it to the NFL. They score their first touchdown, and the first thing they be like is, "Hi, mom." Like, yo, what happened to us? But I think it's definitely different circumstances. Like you said, it could have been financial, it could have been anything that's
Mhm.
going on. But that is ultimately the daughter's decision, and hopefully she's making
Mhm.
the right decision for her.
Okay, cool. All right. So see, we got three different sides of that. And see, that's why it's good to have a guest, Shannon. We can break
Oh,
that
yeah.
thing down. But even because most things, Shannon, you and I like, oh yeah, we agree. See, even on this
Right.
we disagreed. So this was great. So
Yeah.
we got three sides of this one. All right. So if you guys have anything else to add, we can wrap it up, move on to the red line.
Nope,
Yeah, I think
good
we
to go.
can.
All right. So we're gonna wrap up this episode by saying, parents, one of the great points Jason pointed out, I want to pick up on is he just picked up. It didn't matter what the other father was doing. Shannon, a great point that you
Mhm.
brought in was saying, like, don't force it, let it happen. Another point I
Mhm.
think we all mentioned was the kids eventually they'll figure out who the parents are, right?
Mhm.
Biological or step. Time will tell everything. All we can do every day, people, is just be our best. And the most important thing, though, the most important thing I want to leave you guys with tonight is what Shannon said. If you are a step parent, don't in any way make those kids feel like they are step. They are second best. All children are brought into this world, without a care, without a choice. As adults, it's our job to make them feel special and wanted, whether you're biological or step. So please be mindful. And if you don't have that kind of love, don't marry people with kids.
Right.
All right, we can move on to
All
our red line.
right. Okay, on to the red line.
All right, tonight's red line topic is parenting without pride. Parents, we've said many times tonight, children don't ask to come into this world. I just said that in the wrap up. We make those choices, and no matter what comes in May, when you have a child, your life is no longer just about you. So if the other parent chooses to opt out on their duties, do your best to see to it that the child doesn't feel the sting of it. And if you happen to be a single parent, utilize all the resources out here. Lean on family if you need to at times. I did often in my younger years with my first child. But whatever we have to do, just know it is our duty to provide for our children the best we can. And I can honestly tell you all, as a single mom, it got really rough at times, but God. And He always made a way. So if you find yourself at odds with the other parent, whether it's biological or step, and you want to drag them through the mud or badmouth them to the child, don't. Ask yourself, what would Jesus do? Keep being the best parent you can be. I used to tell my one daughter's father all the time, you will have to explain to God why you didn't do your part, but I will always provide, even if that means me doing without. And if you don't feel the same way, people, don't bring children into this world. And that's my red line topic for tonight.
Amen.
Amen.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Um, Now, you want to tell them about the remaining
Yes,
season
yes.
or
I'll quickly mention. I forgot to say this, guys, in the intro. Please get your November submissions in. You have 5 days from tonight to get them in. As the holiday season is wrapping up, and we are gonna wrap up our final episode. And we've been promoting our wife and baby mama giveaway. So next season, when we come back, we'll have to announce December's winner. But for November, we're gonna announce that in next week's episode. So you guys have 5 days to get in your red line, okay? Because we won't run it on the third Thursday. It'll be the second Thursday of November, of course, because we have the
yeah.
5 Thursdays. It's holiday season, and we want to take a break and give you guys time to love on your family. And we want to love on our families, and we want to meet back fresh after the holidays. So for November, send your submissions to wifeyandbabymama@gmail.com. That's wifeyandbabymama@gmail.com. Make sure it's a thankful, no. And for December, we want like a heartfelt no. We won't run back through the whole details. You gotta go back and check the Wife and Baby Mama page for the details of it. But we do want to give you time to get them in, as we're gonna wrap up 1 week early and get it out of the way. So the third Thursday for November, that red line will be read on next Thursday. And on December, the third Thursday will be read once we return in December. However, we want you to get them in by the third week of December, because we're going to still give out the $100 and still get the book to you. We'll just announce the winner in January. And I shall fade, Shannon. Go ahead with your fictional family.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Okay, the fictional family I'm feeling this week comes from one of my favorite families, the Rocks, from Everybody Hates Chris. We've talked about them before. But this particular episode, Chris and his little friend Greg are talking about an allowance because Greg, being a little white boy, he gets an allowance. And Chris said, I always heard of those things, but never knew that they really existed. And the little boy, his friend, says, well, go ask your father about an allowance because Chris wanted a new leather jacket. And if anyone has ever watched the show, they know Julius, his father, is very cheap. Julius, who complains if a whole meal costs $2.89. That's too much for him. So they're sitting at the dinner table, and Chris is trying to think, okay, when is a good time to ask, his cheap father for something? Well, everyone at the table starts asking for something. His sister Tanya said she needed $15 to go on a field trip. Then his brother Drew needed $5 to go to a show. And then his wife, she needed $25 to go shopping. So Chris was like, oh, cool. This is the perfect time to jump in here. So he's like, can I get a leather jacket? And his dad says, Julius is like, well, when you get some leather jacket money. And he's like, but how about I get an allowance? And his father's like, I'm not going to give you money just to walk around and do nothing. And he said, so what it sounds like you're saying to me is since I work all day like a slave and don't have time to enjoy my money, that I should give it to you. And he says, I'm not giving you money. And he says an allowance. And so he goes into this, I allow you to sleep here. I allow you to eat those potatoes. I allow you to use my lights and drink my Kool-Aid. And, goes on, down this long stretch of things that, what his money does for him and for Chris and his siblings and the family. And, of course, Chris completely as a kid not get it. But at the end of the show, he got it. And a lot of the kids, whether they're blended kids that we're talking about or biological or natural kids, they will look and see, who's doing for me.
That's right.
Like we said in the show, they will grow up and say, this person was there for me. I know who was that parent that stepped in and made sure I had what I needed. Maybe not everything I wanted. Chris didn't get his leather jacket, but he had everything he needed.
That's
And
right.
Julius, as cheap as he was, he made sure those kids were taken care of.
That's right.
And so that's why I chose this fictional family as the fictional family that I am feeling this week.
Awesome. And
All
I think
right.
the most powerful message is we may not get, and I think everybody needs to latch on to this. Parenting does not mean getting kids everything they want. Just get
Mm-hmm.
them everything they need. That's our
That's,
duty.
yeah. No matter if you're the biological parent, the bonus parent, step parent, whatever title you want to use.
Just make sure they have what they need. And we
That's
have
right.
just one more episode. One more episode, guys, and Wifey and
One
Baby Mama
more.
will be ending for season 2. So thank you
Yes.
all for hanging with us tonight. Thank you, Jason, for coming on back to back.
It was great. Thank you for having me once again. Hopefully, I can be back again.
Season 3.
Oh,
We
most
shall see.
definitely. All right. Until next week.
Love you all. Bye.
I'm